Hey folks, welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. We are brought to you by Jolly Good Soda, and here is today's episode. Folks, welcome to the Cripescast. Today we have Dexter Patterson on. He is a UW professor, and he is also the co-founder of BIPOC Birding Club, Wisconsin. It is a birding club dedicated to bringing everybody out into the woods to enjoy nature and the beautiful art of birding. It doesn't matter what your background is, but specifically geared toward representing people of color out in the woods and whatnot. And as a fellow bird nerd myself, it was just a pleasure to talk with Dexter. We got talking about, like, there's been a lot of crazy bird things happening in Wisconsin this past year. Colleen is here, everyone. And, we're like, remember when the flamingos came in over at Port Washington? Yeah. And then up in Green Bay, there was that spoonbill thing. I forget how you pronounce it, but roseate. I forget. But you know what? That's the cool thing about Dexter is if you mispronounce a bird or you forget the name of it or whatever, it's okay. It's like, it's all about just the joy of getting out there and the simple act of looking at a bird and going, oh yeah, that's a cool bird. That's it. That's the entry to birding.
He's not a snob like you are.
I'm not a snob.
One time I was at Home Goods and I FaceTimed because I saw this cool like art for his apartment, for Charlie's apartment.
Yeah.
And I FaceTimed him and I was like, hey, do you want this? And it was like a couple ducks. And you were like, no, I don't want a basic duck, is what you said.
No, you were showing me two mallards, okay? And it's not that I didn't want a picture of two mallards. I have several mallard pictures already. So what I was saying is for the money, I didn't, I was like, let someone else have a mallard in their house,
This is interesting how you're like marketing it now.
I'm backpedaling a bit.
Yeah, because you're like, if I were basic, I'd want a mallard. That's what you
Is that what I said? Pull up the text.
No, it was on FaceTime.
Oh, so we can't prove it. You can't
Actually, I
prove
was with a friend. They were with me and they overheard you.
Call that friend up.
Okay.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Well, it's a mallard, Anyway,
you were like, if it were merganser, I'd be talking.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, yeah.
You found me because it's very rare to find that,
Yeah.
So maybe I am a snob. Maybe Dexter's teaching me that you don't have to be a snob. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. I'm okay to admit I'm wrong.
Say that one more time and we'll isolate that audio.
Maybe _ highlight. I am wrong.
Okay.
So anyway.
You got to nerd out with your bird friends.
Got to nerd out with a fellow bird nerd. It was super cool.
I love that.
I love it for me too. And we're also going to do a video at some point.
Ooh.
I just got to find a little time for that. So, what else is cooking in the Cripescast world, Colleen? Well, we just got off the road, did a fun stretch this past weekend. We were in Marshfield. Saw some cool birds. Up in Houghton, Michigan. Yeah.
What birds?
Saw a few different hawks. Saw a bald eagle on my way up. I do think I saw an osprey, actually, but I wasn't sure. But actually, Adam driving back, dude saw a wolf. Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah. I said, Adam, can I see the picture? He said, I didn't get a picture. I have it up here. I said, that didn't count. But
that's so like Gen Z of you.
I know.
You can't just like live in the moment and let the picture last in your memory.
No, I'm cool. I'm hip. But anyway, yeah.
You did that and then you went to Fish Creek.
Went to Fish Creek, and then coming up, we got a show. We got other shows, folks. CharlieBarons.com, ManitowocMinute.com. That's where you can find them. Cripescast.com. We got too many freaking websites, I think.
Go to Cripescast.com and click on tour, and it is updated. You will. I don't think it's a bad thing to have multiple websites because then anybody can go anywhere and access it. He has shows in Reedsburg, Wisconsin this weekend, but they're sold out. But the next ones are coming up in December. He's going to New York City and Eau Claire.
Yeah.
The Big Apples.
The Big Apples.
The Big Apples.
Going to all the big cities.
And then in January, you're doing a run in North Dakota. And in the housekeeping notes, Hannah goes, Colleen's birthday and lack of donuts.
All right. First of all, did I not send out today? I'm buying lunch.
I didn't get lunch because I told you I had lunch, and I brought a lunch that I was excited about. So you and Bill are getting lunch.
I thought you said you were getting lunch. I tried getting you donuts. Okay, I tried getting you donuts. They were closed.
Easy. So we're laughing though downstairs because yesterday I show up and John's like, hey, this place that we usually get our birthday donuts from, they're closed on Mondays. And I was like, totally fine. I brought banana bread. We have a thing.
Yeah.
And then today, well, the best part about yesterday is you come in and you're like, hey, did you get your birthday gift? And I was like, yeah. And then you go immediately looking for the donuts.
Well, I was going to sing.
You wanted a donut.
No. We were going to sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said Colleen. Happy birthday to you, Colleen.
You're done.
It was Colleen's birthday, ladies and gentlemen. You only turned 26 once, but boy, we've been hearing about it for a week. So,
did you know that
I did some nice things? I got you a present. I mentioned you on my Instagram story. I did some things. I'm not, first of all, I feel a little scotch bad. Because Colleen, anytime it's someone's birthday around the Cripes office, she takes it upon herself to just do the big celebration deal. Mm-hmm. And I tried. There were balloons out. And I said,
that I blew up last week.
Well, for Dante's birthday, which are still there.
Let's not put it under what you did.
Well, I supplied the financial assistance for said balloons.
Yeah, the Venmo's in your account.
I still haven't fulfilled that.
No, but it was so funny because you were like, hey, did you get your birthday thing?
Yeah.
Did you get your birthday, whatever? And I was like, yeah, because they got me the card and the gift. And then you went immediately to look for the donuts because you were hungry. Mm-hmm. And then today you text or you call me, you go, hey, have you got lunch? And I was like, well, yeah. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to get lunch for everybody for your birthday. And so then Hannah and I hung up and we were laughing because we were on speaker and she was like, it's gonna be like 3 weeks from now and be like, he's gonna want donuts and be like, since we didn't get donuts for your birthday, let's get donuts for the team.
You know what? This is such trash. I try to do so much as a boss.
You're the best.
Yeah, right.
You
know what? I'm not a planner. I'm not but I make up for it in other ways.
Yeah, you're great. Really, I feel so. I've felt celebrated with everybody else. So you are so good.
Oh, God, are you kidding me right now?
I know. I texted you feeling bad that I didn't appreciate enough what you said. Did you see my text?
I did. I didn't read it.
Okay. But no, I've been feeling very celebrated. I'm officially over the hill.
All right, good. Yeah, you're 26.
Yeah.
Whew.
I know.
Yeah.
And what are you? 62?
Oh, man. I'm old. And you know what? Keep making fun of me because you know that the terrible thing about that ticking time is soon enough, your words are going to be used on you.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. Anywho, besides that, do you have anything else?
Yeah, we've been doing this the past few weeks, folks. I just want to say with the obvious painful tragedy of everything going on in Gaza right now, Doctors Without Borders has been doing, as good a job as any getting medical supplies to people who desperately need it and have needed it for quite some time. If you'd like to donate and find a way to contribute, go to doctorswithoutborders.org. You can follow them at Doctors Without Borders. And so check them out. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to talk with my buddy, Dexter Patterson. What is good, sir? Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Man, living the dream, Charlie. Living the dream.
Are you? That's good, dude. All right, what does the dream look like today?
Dream looks like today, we had I'm full-time faculty member at the University of Wisconsin. So, being able to teach those future leaders, those young adults, those badgers that's going to go out in the world and do incredible things. I just feel like, that is the dream for me. So we had an amazing lecture this morning in my intro to video production class. Just, I don't know. They feed me so much joy every day. I just feel like I'm super lucky to be able to do what I do. When you grow up, you have certain dreams and ultimately you want to do something that doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And as hard as I work, I feel like it doesn't feel like a job, like I just feel like every day I show up, it's like I'm going birding every day or something, they light me up. They fill me up with so much joy, so.
That's
living
great,
the dream.
Man. That's cool. And I can't wait to get to the birding aspect of this interview in a second. But before we do, so tell us about the classes that you teach at UW. Tell us like where you grew up, and then kind of give us to how you got to the idea of starting, the birding club.
Yeah, so right now I teach full-time in the Department of Life Sciences Communication. So that's in the CALS department here on campus. And our focus is basically teaching people how to use digital tools to communicate science. So for me, I've always kind of been into science. I've always been into communication. I love people. So as I was thinking about what I wanted to do with my career, this really kind of spoke to me, where it was kind of like this blend. Growing up, they called me Digital Dex. I was that guy, like they were like, give him the camera, let him do this, let him do that. Oh, he can figure it out. He can build your MySpace page. Yes, I'm kind of old. So it's always kind of been, that skill set. I've always kind of had that skill set. And for me now to be able to teach, so I teach intro to digital video production. I teach radio and podcasting for science communication. And then I teach documentary photography for the sciences. So it kind of blends all of, what I feel like are my strengths as a creator, as a teacher, as well as gives me that opportunity to show people the opportunity they have to use these tools to tell some amazing stories in the world.
Yeah. I mean, you are, so you just decided to take the skills that you were literally teaching to do and almost lead by example for what is possible with these skills, and by combining these things. And you've created this cool, in the way I see it, a platform to maybe bring in people who may not be potentially interested, or potentially given the avenue, or potentially, just given the opportunity to bird, or even think. Yeah. First of all, most people out there are not birders, and when you have a focus on, BIPOC and kind of, and you bring that out and you just provide that opportunity. What was the response like? Like what and why did you decide to kind of frame it the way you framed it?
So for me, like birding, I always felt like I was kind of scared growing up, right? As a man of color. I was always afraid that, like, if I told people I was this bird nerd, I'd get picked on, right? Like, living, So my people were like, Dex like birds, right? Like, and like now I'm like, yes, birds, but like there was this fear factor, and for me, it was also, Charlie. It was like this. I never saw people that looked like me birding, right? Yeah. So like in these traditional spaces, they're older people, older white dudes usually, right?
With the funny ass hats and the big boots,
Yeah. And I got them all too now, which is kind of funny, but I wear them with a little different type of swag. You feel me?
Right.
But it was this opportunity where I was like, I don't see people like me out here, and I feel like representation matters. So I was like, as I'm out birding, and like, this was especially true during the pandemic. I noticed like, and maybe you can relate to this, like the lack of human interaction was like really doing something to me. And being cooped up, and I was like, I got to get outside, right? Like, and that's when I really started to see the power. And I always tell people, birding is not about the birds. And the reason why I say that is I started to notice that my mental health was getting better. My physical health was getting better. I'm hiking some days hours at a time, right? And you don't even notice it. So I started feeling better about myself, and I was like, I'm freaking happy. So like when I'm out there and I'm like, I call it bird joy, right? And I'm like, I see something new and I like get all excited and kind of get all giddy, right? And I was like, dude, I got to share this with more people. So I started thinking about, I mentioned having these skills, knowing social media well, knowing how to use video, audio, all these different things. And I started saying, you know what? I want to start sharing these moments in real time with people so they can see that birding is for them, right? And that was kind of like my spark of like, if this makes me feel this good, if I can get one other person to like go out and maybe they feel a little bit better, or maybe they realize, oh man, I've never been to this natural area. What that was one thing I was like, there are all these beautiful places around me and I've never been to them before, whether it's our amazing parks, these nature conservancies and wetlands and all these beautiful places. And I'm like, they've been in my backyard the whole time and I'm like, not there, right? Like, and it was just like, it opened up a world for me where I was like, wow, like, not only do I want to share what this makes me feel like, but I want to share that like, it's bigger than the birds, man. The state of Wisconsin is just absolutely beautiful. And I was like, let's get more people outside.
Yeah. And I especially think, as sort of technology has brought a lot of us inside or to the point where we really don't need to leave, someone brings us our food with Instacart, or if we go to the grocery store, we even check out, we don't go to we don't go to the cashier. We miss these little human interactions. But then beyond that, like when we're out, like it's almost like from a mental health perspective, God gave us a pretty solid antidepressant, and that is like nature. And that I'm not saying that from a hippie perspective as much as I'm saying it from a scientific perspective. The ability, nature, and being in some sense of nature for a certain amount of time drops cortisol levels, reduces stress. That over time reduces like the health care we are all paying, into a system. So having these natural spaces is something that is good for is so much more than just people who love nature. It's good for the economy. It's good for people's mental well-being. I mean, it's just, can we find a way to convince enough people who can do building developments on them before they do the developments, That's me on a tangent right there. But I think what you're doing is super cool. And I love how you're finding maybe a group of folks who hasn't been historically had access to such cool like nature, just nature in general, and then introducing that, because we found a way as a society to kind of take it away in a lot of ways.
That's what we want to do, is we kind of want to break that cycle, and show. I mean, there was a long time in this country where Black people weren't even welcome to our national parks, right? And I think a lot of people don't associate that with why maybe they don't want to go to a park, right? Like, it's kind of like over the years, you talk about family vacations and where you may go. A lot of times it's not a national park. And hopefully that starts to change for some folks, but there's also fear factors for many people of color going into the woods, right? A lot of people fear what they don't understand. You got a history of lynching, and like it's a really deep history of why there are so many reasons why a lot of people of color avoid nature, avoid the woods and different things. And it's beyond that, it's not beautiful, right? Like, it is gorgeous. And once people get out there, they're like, holy cow, it does open up your mind. Whether, forest bathing is real, right? You talked about the cortisol levels and different things. Research as a scientist, right? there is research out there that proves that hearing bird calls and sounds bring down anxiety. There's like a whole movement of mindful birding that's going on in the world right now because of that link. And I can't tell you enough. I'm having a rough day. I take a hike on Picnic Point Charlie on here on campus or something. I come back and I'm like, like it's tangible, it's palpable. So I want people to understand it's for you. I always tell my members, birding is for everyone, even you. If you've never been there, at least try it. And that's the reason I kind of take this low key, slightly scientific approach to it, right? Because I feel like a lot of times it can be super intimidating. Mm-hmm. It can be like a lot of these traditional birding spaces, you go there, they expect you to have all the answers. Like if you ask a question and maybe it's a silly question, like, what is that bird? And it's an American robin, and they make you feel like you're dumb, right? Maybe you don't know, right?
Right.
Like, maybe you don't know that's a black-capped chickadee. Maybe you don't know that's a downy woodpecker or a hairy woodpecker or a dark-eyed junco, right? All birds you can see right now. So like, it's one of those things where like, I always tell people, you don't need to be a pro. We go on hikes. Sometimes we can have 40, 50 people that show up and half of them have never been birding before. Guess what I tell them? If you point at a bird, you're being helpful.
Yeah.
And guess what that does for them? Right? Like they're not afraid to ask a question. Right. They just kind of live in a moment. They're present. They're learning along the way. And they feel like, hey, I can do this. Right. And we have kids, parents that bring their kids, and I'm like, please let your kids run. Let them roll in the grass. Let them pick flowers, right? Like, that's how you get them interesting. That's also like this tangent of birding isn't about the birds. It's about getting outside. It's about community, right? There's so many different levels. And I'll like, hey, break out the Seek app, right? SEEK. Learn that plant, right? And learn these different things. Some people just love hiking and the birds are the bonus. And I'm like, that is amazing, right? Like, come for the hike. It doesn't matter. You're outside.
Man, I remember when Pokemon Go became a thing, and everyone's going out there with their phone. And I mean, hey, it gets them outside, whatever. But I mean, like, birding is the original Pokemon Go,
It is.
You can see like a lot of cool birds if you just look. And you brought up apps too. The Merlin app, I brought it up on. Dang, it's cool. For those of you who don't know, I think I brought it up on the show before. Merlin is a cool app where you just open it up. I think it's Cornell researchers, and you can have it listen to what's going on around. It'll hear bird noises. It'll tell you what bird's there. And then you can start looking for where that bird might be. I mean, it's cool, man. I love it.
Imagine sitting outside on your porch. You don't have no clue what you're hearing, right? People always hear these little chirps. You open up the Merlin app, and next thing you know, and then the picture pops up. And then you're like, oh, that's what that is, right? Yeah. It's like these light bulb moments that kind of happen. That is so cool to me, right? And I always say, they're always like, Dexter, how do you know all these birds? I said, one bird, one call at a time. Like 100%. Literally, like that's it. That is literally it. One bird, one call at a time, and just take that pressure off yourself. You don't need to be a pro. You just don't need to be a pro. If you're paying attention, I tell people be like, well, what makes me a birder? I said, are you paying attention to birds? You're a birder.
Yeah.
You don't need a camera. You don't need binoculars. You don't need fancy equipment. All you need to do is just pick up your head and pay attention, and you're birding.
Right. It's very, very low barrier to entry to do it. And it's just such a fun thing. Like, I remember this one time I was out with that little app on my phone, and I saw in there was woodpeckers. And I red-bellied. No, it wasn't a red-bellied woodpecker. I I used to think it was a red-bellied woodpecker. And this is kind of a good explanation for how I love birding and I still mess this stuff up all the time. And maybe you can help me. So it's the little woodpecker with the black and white feathers, the white belly, the red little mohawk on the head. It's a small one. It's about a little more than a hand in size.
Yeah. So what that is the downy woodpecker.
The downy woodpecker. I knew it was laundry. I always think laundry. That's an easy one for a lot of like people to remember, and I screw it up, you know. But man, I saw it on the app, and I looked up. I was like, "Where is that sucker?" And I looked up. It wasn't just one. It was like a whole family of these woodpeckers, and they were like going into this hollowed out piece of wood in one side, and they were going out the other and then flying around to the other side. They were just playing a game with this hollowed out piece of wood in the tree. And it's just so fun. I just sat there and watched it, you know, for a minute. But it's a great entertainment. And if you got binoculars, which you don't need to have, but if you got them, man, you can get pretty tight on those things. It's cool.
Hey, another fun fact, that little red stripe that you see, that's how you know it's a male.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of times all right. So can you explain this for folks? Why is it the male birds are often the coolest in color, and then the female birds may have some more like subdued colors?
Because guess who controls yes or no in the breeding process? The female,
ladies.
Right?
Yeah.
So the male, they're going to try to look as fancy and as bright as possible. Like, hey, look at me. You should mate with me, not this one over here. My mohawk is a little redder than that dude's. You know what I mean? Like, hey. So wood ducks are a great example of that, right?
Yeah.
The male wood duck is the most colorful duck in North America. Beautiful, beautiful ducks, right?
Oh God,
just so beautiful. In the way that they established that color was over time. The female wood duck, who is absolutely gorgeous in her own right as well, she tries to find the most bold, bright, most beautiful colored male to mate with, because what that tells her is this is going to give me healthy offspring. So over generations of the females selecting only the brightest, you know, healthiest looking males, it has created this lineage, right? This DNA of these just gorgeous male wood ducks because of the female. So the males look fancy and colorful thanks to their female partner.
And is it also true that the females are more of the earth tone colors? So when they're protecting the nest, hawks, it's kind of a camouflage?
It is. It's nature's camouflage as well. Because a lot of time, and there are a lot of birds that both spend times on the nest, but most of the time it's the female birds, and it does help give them more camouflage, especially during the nesting season.
What bird got you into birding? Like what was it?
Do you look? You see this little dude right here? So this the osprey. Right?
Oh yeah, up
the
north,
osprey,
man.
Yeah, the osprey did it for me. And this is what I would call my spark bird. So if you hear somebody talking about a spark bird, it's that bird that lit that fuse, right? That sparked them and really made them want to learn more. And for me, it was the osprey. And at the time, this is over a decade ago, I come across, this is kind of right when social media videos are kind of taking off, and I have always been interested in the space, and I'm scrolling, and all of a sudden I see this bird. At the time, Charlie, I didn't know what I was looking at, right? I had no clue. This is an osprey. All I see is this big old bird. And I'm like, what is this thing, right? And at the time, this bird is just darting down towards the water. And I remember just being like, what is this? You know, what is happening right here, right? So I'm like that little emoji where your head's blowing up.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally like that. And I'm just like staring at this bird, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Why is it going so fast? And why is it flying towards the water? Yeah. Right? And it's just going, and it's getting closer and closer. And I start getting a little anxious because I'm like, this bird getting really close to the water. going head first this fast. And I'm starting to get a little anxious. Like, what is happening here? What is happening here? And then all of a sudden, it locks out his big old talons. I mean, if you see an osprey, they have the most gnarly looking talons ever. I mean, they are just long, they're curved. You don't want to be on the business side of that. So they lock in the talons, and then all of a sudden it hits the water. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, again, that emoji, my head's blowing up, and I'm freaking out. Because I'm like, this bird's gonna drown. Like, I'm like, all these thoughts going through my head. I'm like, this freaking bird is gonna drown.
It's putting itself out of misery.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? You know, and so I just keep watching, and I'm watching. I'm like, why am I watching this? I started questioning myself too.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, his head pops out of the water. And I'm like, it didn't drown. Right? Like, it didn't drown. It starts shaking his head a little bit. Birds hate to be wet, by the way. But next thing you know, it starts flapping its wings, and flapping its wings. And it comes out of the water with a big ass fish. I'm talking about, it's on here. Like, this is literally the spark bird moment where the osprey comes out of the water and just flies away with this huge trout. I was done. Like, literally that day, I said, first of all, what was that? So I started researching. I started trying to figure out what this bird is. I said, I need to know what that bird is. And I was like, I didn't even know what else. All these other birds. Like, it was that moment where I was like, that bird made me want to know as much about all birds as possible. And then as I started researching, I realized that ospreys actually are in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, I can actually see this bird near me? Right? I started freaking out, dude. Like, I was like, that's it. Like, that was the moment where I said, I need to know. Like, I was like, I'm a bird nerd. That day forward, I was like on a mission. Like, literally on a mission. And that was the moment, man.
That's super cool. I love that. So I remember I was fishing up north this past year, and I saw one of those ospreys go down and come up. First of all, I'm sitting there fishing walleyes, and I've been fishing walleyes, and I've been fishing the walleyes deep in the depths, you know, over a hump, because there's a hump down there, and they usually wait for the feed to go down the hump. And so I'm fishing on the bottom, dragging a leech or something, or shooting like a rattling bait over there. And then all of a sudden, I see this osprey go down and come up with a walleye, and it was toward the surface. I was like, I didn't think the walleyes were toward, you know, and it wasn't like a wounded one or either. I would have seen it flapping, but it was like right in front of my boat too. So wow. I was just amazed by their fishing capabilities, you know, and yeah, to see one come up with that, because a walleye is a big fish, man. It's like that trout on your hat, you know.
Yeah, and it's like an explosion. You remember when it hit the water? It's like boom, right? And then like all of a sudden they're gonna come out of the water like it's nothing and just fly away.
Yeah, they don't need bait to catch fish, you know. They're just, I mean, they're so impressive. Hey, folks, Thanksgiving is, you know, like pretty much here. And everybody knows before Thanksgiving, you got the Friendsgiving, which I never do. Colleen, you do that? I just don't care. But some people do care.
Yeah.
And if you do care and want to have a Friendsgiving, make sure you bring yourself some Jolly Good Soda with, because you want to have them same friends next year. You bring some Jolly Good Soda, you'll have them plus.
Or if you don't care,
friends.
an easy way to bring something is bringing a Jolly Good.
That's
like
true.
Usually people have to bring their own thing. Like I'm definitely like a main dish, and you're Jolly Good.
I'm a Jolly Good.
Because you're a Jolly Good time.
I'm a Jolly Good time. I do also keep it in my car just in case.
And it's refrigerated. It's the season now where like if you keep something in your car, it'll be refrigerated. So it's not even the lukewarm hot summer day Jolly Goods. It's a nice crisp fall Jolly
crisp.
Good. Yeah.
Now, if it gets a little too cold though, take them out your car.
Be careful.
Because you don't want them to freeze and then explode all over your car. That would be a sticky situation. Regardless, folks, Jolly Good is the thing you can bring to make your family and your friends thankful for you this Thanksgiving. Also, folks, Fleet Farm. Holy smokes, take a deep breath in. You made it. Hunting season is back, and all great hunts start at the Fleet Farm. They've got a huge selection of hunting gear and deals on everything you need to make this year's hunt the best one. You'll have gear you can trust to get the job done, and you'll be able to show off that big buck, that big old buck you'll get this year. Don't get caught leaving the woods empty-handed. Set yourself up for success right from the get-go at the Fleet Farm. I was just at the Fleet Farm not too long ago getting a new scope because I ran over my old one with my car.
Someone say you're scoping out some scopes.
Some could say that. I did scope some scopes, and I purchased one. I didn't get
scooped up a scope.
I scooped up a scope. I didn't get an expensive one, though.
You scoped out some fair prices for a new scope, and you scooped it up at the Fleet Farm.
Hey, that's Dr. Seuss.
I don't know. That's not that good.
Dr. Coco
And then
Seuss.
he goes, "Ope.
Ope?
Ope, it's a scope."
Are you done?
Yeah.
Find it at the Fleet Farm. Folks, I tell you what, best way to support the podcast, go to cripescast.com, click on the merch section. We've got some real humdinger things coming out. Like I got a new album coming out with Adam Gruhl, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades.
Dive Bar Dinner.
Dive Bar Dinner. You can pre-order it now.
Yep. We'll put the link in the show notes.
Very excited about it. It's a very fun album. It'd be great to get ahead with Christmas. You can buy the vinyl. It does come in vinyl. You can buy the CD for anyone still with a 2005 Corolla. Yeah, you can buy whatever. We also have sweatshirts, t-shirts, whatnot. Check it out, cripescast.com. Get all your Christmas shopping done and did in just a few days right on cripescast.com, folks. Tell your folks I says hi. Watch out for deer. We got cribbage boards. We got koozies. We got bottle openers, bottle openers, shirts, everything. Check it out. And
this sweatshirt.
This sweatshirt, the Ope Christmas tree.
If you got an ugly Christmas sweater party.
Yeah, this is perfect for that.
It's perfect.
And it's made in the USA. Most of our stuff is made in the USA. Very rare to find that stuff these days because it's really expensive for me. But we're keeping the prices low for you guys. They are comparable to other prices you see out there. We're doing our best. Support the American manufacturing, low carbon footprint. Whatever you want. So yeah, there you have it. Now let's get back to my conversation with Dexter. I remember the bird. Would you call that the spark bird?
Yeah,
my spark bird, and I also talked about on this podcast before. But the red-breasted merganser. Oh my gosh, you know that bird?
Oh yeah, they're beautiful.
So beautiful. They got this and. I grew up, I did duck hunting. I did all that sort of stuff. I was familiar with teals and wood ducks and this, that, and the other thing. But I had never heard about these red-breasted mergansers. I was just walking along the river in Milwaukee, and I see this duck with a mohawk. And I'm like, what, that dude, like, did he accidentally get clipped by a boat propeller, get like a haircut or something? Is that like a wood duck with a haircut? No, man, that the red-breasted merganser, and you talk about the male-female interaction, the one female is swimming around there, got 5 different males doing the courtship dance, ass up, beak up. That's the way they like to do something that rhymes with up. And then the female just sticks her razor sharp beak right into one of their sides, and that's the one she wants to get freaky with. And it's just such a cool thing. And that's the bird that made me buy binoculars right there. That's what that was.
Because those displays, right? When they like get up, the male, and they're nuts. Like it's intense.
They're crazy. They don't leave those female ducks alone, man.
No.
The whole reason they eat fish is so they can spend all day following around those lady ducks. Sometimes I see a few female red-breasted mergansers just going by themselves. I just have to imagine they're talking so much smack about like how those guys won't leave them alone, man.
Yeah. Oh boy, over there, he just won't leave me. Yeah.
No, it's tough.
He's
tough
not
life,
ready
dude.
for this. He's not ready for this.
He's not ready for these red breasts. which are not even, why do they call it the red-breasted merganser? Isn't there some little
There's a
piece of red, but
so
only on the males, yeah?
yeah, and it's during the breeding season, you really kind of see that red breast, especially when they start doing those displays, kind of similar to when the loons kind of open up their breasts like that. But during that breeding season, you really see that red breast pop.
Man, loons are they're cool too. I remember this one time that I was kayaking like way up north. My family used to go up north every year, and I was just sitting there early in the morning. Big family, one of the babies was up, so I got out in the kayak and or the canoe at that point, and I was just going out there sitting in this bay, and then all of a sudden, all these loons came flying in, baby loons, the whole deal. I guess I don't know how the babies got there because I didn't think they fly. No, they came popping up out of the water. They popped up out of the water. That's it. And just they were just surrounding me. I was just there. And then all of a sudden I made a few movements. They didn't care initially, and then they all went under again. But man, those are such cool birds. And I think you start to realize, I don't see these often. And then why isn't that? And then you look at sort of the habitat loss. And currently, right now, just as a society, birds, we're learning about how much benefit they bring to us. And yet at the same time, there's a songbird shortage. We are losing our birds at an incredible rate because of climate change, because of habitat loss. How much of that stuff are you concerned about? How much advocacy do you feel like you're doing? And is the simple act of birding advocacy?
It is, because when you start birding and you start paying attention, you also start to notice habitat, right? Or during spring migration, and you mentioned the songbirds and all the little warblers start coming back, right? And they're so beautiful. And you start when you pay attention, you're like, this exists, right? Like, especially when you're new, like I can't imagine like the feeling when you see some of these birds for the first time. It's kind of magical in a sense of like, you just didn't know it existed. It's like this portal into these worlds, right? And you start to realize, wow, we start chopping down all these trees. We're chopping down habitat. We're chopping down nesting areas. We're chopping down food sources. You mentioned the loons. Loons are very particular when it comes to water quality, right? Not only do they need a big space of water because they need a runway to take off, but they only stop in pristine waters. So if your waters are polluted, the loons are not going to stop. They're not going to be able to fish. They're not going to be able to feed themselves as they're making their way north during the breeding season. Or right now, they're all over Lake Mendota, because they're making pit stops before they go to their wintering grounds, right? And they stop here. We're lucky we're on the isthmus here on the UW campus, and our lakes are doing good right now. So the loons are doing fine. The waterfowl here are doing fine. But when we think of water quality, and we start to ruin that, that's also ruining your fishing. If your fishing is bad, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to see the other apex predators. You're not going to see the osprey. You're not going to see the bald eagles. You're not going to see a lot of these other things. Like it literally is that circle of life where if one thing in an ecosystem is wrong, it knocks out everything out of order. I know last winter, there was a huge ice storm down south. I don't know if you remember, like Texas just getting buried in ice, all those southern states getting buried in ice. And we lost millions of songbirds, millions, right? And we noticed it. You noticed it in the spring where the numbers were low. Thankfully, this spring, we saw numbers that were more reflective. We saw some changes, but the spring before was just awful. And it was a direct reflection of those birds literally dying off in ice and snowstorms as they're in their wintering grounds. So it all matters. All the habitat matters. It literally is the symbiotic relationship between all these different parts of the ecosystem. And once and it's usually us as human beings, mess up one of them, it impacts all of them.
It does. I mean, this year, and I don't know how much this can be directly attributed to climate change, but we saw a few very rare birds make their way up to Wisconsin I mean, we saw flamingos in Sheboygan, for God's sake. What was up with that? Why did the flamingos come here? Was it like the first time they've been here? Have we seen this before? And then why did they come up this way?
Yeah, so the flamingos were actually they were literally spread all over the country from the hurricane.
Okay.
So the hurricane actually they were trying to survive. So they were running from the hurricane. And that literally, when they made it up to Port Washington, that was the first ever state recorded record in the history of our state of American flamingo. So it was literally a miracle. It's something that had never happened before. When I got that notification, like, dude, I was like,
you got in your car.
Out of here.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. It's like one of those moments, like, I'm not like a bird chaser. And I always tell people this, but like, if it's like these rare birds you mentioned, the American flamingos, I'm going to try to see that.
Yeah.
We had a roseate spoonbill that showed up in Green Bay.
Tell people about
see that.
Yeah. Well, that's another cool one. So tell people about that and then why you think it got to Green Bay.
Yeah, so a lot of these birds, they're typically younger birds. And it could be a storm. It could be them just getting lost. So one thing about Wisconsin, we're on the Mississippi Flyway. So there is a chance that a bird can get knocked off course, could be a younger bird, not as experienced, right? And maybe, so down south, you can see them in Florida. You can see them in Georgia, off the coast of Georgia, Little St. Simon's Island, places like that in large numbers. And they typically hang out with great egrets, great blue herons, which are birds that we get quite often here, right? They're a regular that we see here all the time in Wisconsin. So maybe this one bird gets knocked off course and then he's like flying around. He's like, hey, there goes some egrets. They're my people, right? And he's like, I'm going to hang out with my people because he knows if he sees them, guess what? There's food sources for him. Like, and they're very social birds. And you'll see them in larger numbers hanging out together. So maybe that getting knocked off course a little bit gets to hanging out with these birds. And then he continues flying north with them because now he's with them, right? And kind of going through the migration pattern. But it's typically, it's going to be an accident, right? Like it's not I always tell people vagrant appearances of birds happen all the time in all parts of the world. The one thing that we need to pay attention to are patterns. Okay. So now if he comes back next year and another year and another, now let's start thinking about what is happening here. These ranges of these birds are changing, right? Yeah. The limpkin is a really good example too. Last summer was the hot limpkin summer. This summer it was even hotter, right? We had all these limpkin sightings all over in these places that limpkins aren't supposed to be. And Wisconsin was one of the places, and people are freaking out. Hot limpkin summer. This summer, even more sightings of limpkins. We actually still have one hanging out in Mount Horeb right now at Stewart County Park. Like, the dude is still here. Really? Eating all the big apple snails and just loving his life right now.
He's probably it's 60 degrees. I mean, why leave,
right. Yeah, so it's kind of wild. So they happen. And I always tell people that is okay. These birds are smart. Right? Flamingos, everybody's worried about them. Oh, are they going to stick around for the cold? No, they're not. They're smart. They're going to get up and they're going to go. And there have not been any flamingo sightings in the state of Wisconsin for a month. Right? So like they're gone. And all these birds eventually their instincts will kick in. They want to survive, right? Like, and they're going to get it. They're going to see other birds taking off. They're going to notice the water is starting to freeze, and they're going to start freezing their tails off as well, right? Yeah. So like they'll figure it out. And I just tell people, don't worry unless it starts to become a pattern, and then we can have a different conversation. The American white pelican is another great example, right? You think 20 years ago, nobody's really seeing pelicans in Wisconsin. Just not happening. Now, every year, They breed here now. They're
Yeah.
coming up in large numbers. You see them all over the state. So
On Lake Winnebago, sorry to cut you off, but there's this entire island that is just white from
yeah,
pelican crap. You know, it's acidified. It's gone. It's just a white island now. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
they're here now, and like they literally migrate up and they nest here now. And that wasn't something that you saw, 2 decades ago. So it
And
changes.
and do you think that is attributed to a changing climate? Is that basically what that
I
is?
think so. I think it's both. I think it's definitely habitat loss. It usually starts there, right? It's usually the habitat loss. It's developments. It's the draining of small lakes and ponds and these wetlands, right? They're building condos on them. They're doing all these different things to habitat. So it usually starts with habitat loss. And then the change of climate as well. I mean, like you just mentioned, it's 60 degrees in Wisconsin and it's November.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're living there, it's the hottest, it's ever been really now. And we're seeing that. So not only is it habitat loss, but it's also change of climate and, birds want food. And ultimately, if they're going to continue to expand range, they're usually expanding the range because they have to. And there's good food sources.
And I think it's interesting if on a very micro level, if people watch the birds on a given day, before when a storm is coming because the birds do different things when a storm's coming. So if you get into birding and you're watching birds over time on a macro level, you see the birds start doing something different. Something's coming. It's these more of these hints that nature kind of gives you. It's like nature, if we pay attention to it long enough, tells us how to act as humans. But
It does.
that's why I think it's so cool. The things that you do is connecting as many people as possible to nature. It's something that we all don't do enough of, and it's cool to find different opportunities. Did you start making the videos and everything, and where do you want to take it?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I didn't know what I wanted to do at one point. I was just kind of like, all right, where's the learning opportunity? How can I get more people interested in these little creatures? Right. I was like, okay, what can I do? And I felt like I had this unique ability to tell some stories, to include some interesting nuggets. So I just started creating some content. Whether I'm singing, rapping, dancing in the woods, then I would start like helping people like, hey, who wants to help me find this bird? Or who wants to help me find that bird? And I honestly just started listening to the people and started paying attention. Okay, they like this. They want more of this. So I started leaning into more of that. And I was like, this is it. You ready? Let's go. Right. This is it. Like, let's go. Let's go on these birding adventures. And I started getting these messages, Charlie, from disabled people, from bedridden people, from people not in Wisconsin, and saying, dude, I love going birding with you. So it was like this accessibility factor that kind of really lit me up, where I was like, okay, there's something here. There is something here. And then people started saying, I see myself in you, like they're like, dude, you don't look like what I think a birder looks like. And then I was say, birding is for everyone. You know what I mean? And like, I kind of want, and I was trying to make it cool, trying to make birding cool. My daughters would probably say, Dad, you're not cool, but really trying to like turn it on its head a little bit. And I always feel like there's more people like me that just maybe didn't know everything, or more people out there in the world that don't know that something is for them, that haven't realized that there are beautiful parks out there and they're for you. There are all these protected resources and natural areas that are out there and they're for you. And there's a lot more people in that bucket than the experts. So I started saying, all right, I feel like I can reach the masses, right? and start to like market birding to these people that may have never thought about it ever before. And that was it. That was kind of like the motivation, and then just kind of plugging away and finding something that works and trying to make sure that I'm offering value, but I'm also still staying true to Dexter, right? And having some fun, nerding out in the woods, just being a bird nerd and just, doing it my own way, and I feel like that was the calling of like, you know what, I'm not going to do it like everybody else. I'm not going to tell you to be quiet in the woods when you go birding with me. I'm going to clap. We're going to celebrate when we see something new. We're going to get excited, right? And we're going to laugh and we're going to have fun and like show people it doesn't need to be so stuffy. It should be fun. Right. It should be joyful. Because if it's fun and it's joyful, you start to care. And if you start to care, right, you start to care about not only the bird, but where they live, what habitats. And that's what it's just this whole symbiotic relationship. And that was it, man. And like, honestly, that's the driving force, as well as getting more people of color, more people from underrepresented groups outside together with allies, with people that want a more diverse, equitable outdoor experience in the state of Wisconsin, because it is so beautiful, and like the more people we can get outside, I just feel like the more we can protect this beautiful state that we have.
And it's cool that, birding, for as much, guff as, we can give, like being right here on your phone as opposed to out there. But right here on your phone, that's sort of where you got that inspiration. That's where you got your initial hit with that osprey. And so it makes sense that you go right here to give other people that hit, because you're meeting people right where they are. Everyone's right here. And then this is sort of your door. And then you show them the window, and we can walk out of that window, or just the back door, I suppose. You go in their front door, take them out the back door into the yard. Maybe that's a better analogy. Yeah. But it's super, super cool, man. And birding kind of is going through maybe this bit of a renaissance right now. Even John Oliver, did you see John Oliver's latest episode, Save the Bird? So, how do you say the name of that bird again? Pudaketeki. Pudaketeki. The Pudaketeki. I can't even say it right. So John Oliver, decided that this was the bird that he wanted to win New Zealand's
the bird of the year,
bird of the century. and then he chose Manitowoc, Wisconsin as one of the cities where he would buy a billboard pushing this bird through, and it's such a cool thing. I think he kind of threw the whole campaign a little bit off kilter. I think he really opened the lid for the however you say it, and I should know. But did you see that billboard in Manitowoc at all?
I did not. I heard about it though.
Yeah, but I think things like that, it's really cool because it just draws more awareness for these rare birds, and even though they're maybe in a different place, their health is indicative of the health of birds throughout the world. So it's a different element of, kind of what you're doing, raising awareness and all of that. I guess we don't have a ton of time left, but where do you hope this all goes? Like, do you have an end goal in mind, or are you just living the dream right now and taking this one bird at a time?
Yeah, honestly, that's kind of it, is just trying to cultivate one more bird nerd at a time, living the dream one bird at a time, just kind of sharing more stories, learning as much as I can. I just want to get more people out there paying attention. That is the ultimate goal, is just however that can happen. Maybe it goes to a bigger scale someday. Awesome, right? But ultimately it's just, let's get more bird nerds. Let's cultivate that. Let's build this flock. And I love it, and that's what it is. We'll see where our club goes. Maybe we take it national. There's a lot of things that we've been thinking about. Maybe taking this movement outside of the state of Wisconsin. I have some incredible friends in the birding world that have some big dreams too. So who knows, right? Who knows? National Geographic, holla at your boy,
Yeah.
PBS, all these, if they want to do, I think about it when I first started going from, 20, 50 views to having millions now, which is kind of wild to think about it. Like millions of people, millions of video views just talking about birds, me nerding out about birds, what I mean? It's kind of wild, just thinking about it. And years ago, had no expectations. I didn't know. It was just more of like, I feel good and I want to share this with the world. Maybe this makes somebody else feel better. And now it's really kind of opened up the door. I'm an educator as well. So always going to be looking to teach as a lifelong learner. So being able to teach people about birds also is something that really excites me. Always learning. You never know what's out there. So that is the end goal, Charlie, is just let's get as many bird nerds as possible, continue to have fun, continue to educate as many people as I can about our feathered friends, and who knows where that might go.
I love that, man. I'd love to do a birding video with you. We should think of an idea. I've been trying to think of that. You got any ideas? Anything that you think would be fun off the top of your dome?
Man, who wants to go birding with me and Charlie?
Oh, that could be fun. Go. Yeah.
And we just kind of maybe it's wherever, Manitowoc or anywhere, maybe a stop along the way in the state of Wisconsin, here on campus.
Yeah.
Come back. We got some beautiful places here. But let's get out there, man, and just have some fun, be ourselves. And ultimately that's what it's about. That's how I bird. Come as you are and just be you. I think it could be pretty epic. We might break the internet, like I was like, we might break the internet. Oh,
better plug it back in, turn it off, blowing it, put it back in.
Yeah.
Treat it like a Sega Genesis from the 90s.
Blow it up.
90s kids will get that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this has been super fun, man. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wish I would have?
No, I want people to understand. People always ask me, if I never went birding before, like, what should I do?
Yeah.
And the first thing I would tell them is you don't need to be a pro. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just show up and pay attention, right? Pay attention. Once you start to pay attention to the movement. They're going to be moving in the sky, right? Like the osprey coming down. They're going to be in the trees. They're going to be in bushes. They're going to be on the ground. They're going to be in water, right? So looking for movement. And then that last piece is just listen for the music. Mm-hmm. Listen for the music because they're going to make some beautiful sounds and calls. And if you're just showing up, taking the pressure off yourself, giving yourself a little grace, and you're just paying attention, you're looking for movement, and you're listening to the music, you're going to have a lot of fun, right? You're going to see a lot more birds than you typically realize that are around you at any given time, and you're probably going to want to do it again. So that's what I would say to people. You want to go birding, it's those 3 simple steps, and then you take it from there.
I love it, man. That was great. Dexter, thanks so much for coming on. And if people want to find you, how can they follow you?
I would say check me out on all the social medias at Wisco Birder. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And then if you want to come out birding with me, check out our birding club, BIPOCbirdingclub.org. Everybody is welcome. Like I said, as long as you believe and trying to create a more welcoming, diverse, and equitable outdoor experience, more equitable, inclusive birding experience, and you want that type of experience, please come and join us. We'd love to have you.
Awesome, man. Well, I look forward to joining you, hopefully in the very near future here. And yeah, man, it's going to be fun. I love it.
Let's go.
All right, dude. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. This will be out this week. And then, I'm going to find some time where I can get up and we can do like a little video or something together. That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome.
Cool, man. Awesome.
All right.
Well, good luck at your class coming up here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. Take
Peace.
care. Bye-bye. Folks, there you have it. Make sure you follow Dexter at Wisco Birder. Make sure you follow the BIPOC Birding Club. You go to bipocbirdingclub.org. Follow Cripescast at Cripescast anywhere you get your podcast. Find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Charlie Behrens. Colleen, thank you so much.
Charlie, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
It's all, yes.
And happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
Yeah, make sure you follow Colleen. Colleen, what's your social media? What is it?
Colleen Maraca.
I should have known that.
Yeah.
Follow her, folks.
Follow Charlie if you haven't already.
Yeah, at Charlie
Behrens.
And
yeah.
shout out to Hannah Milos, who is editing this podcast.
I'm super sorry.
All right, thank you all. I will see you next week on the Cripescast.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.